Let's give this a shot. See if it works. All right, Alex, you can't laugh at this. All right, whatever it looks like. There's so many things. Just trying to get my mouse off. All right, what's this saying? All right, here we go. Hello, welcome to MATIT, sponsored by MATIT. My name is Heather Tidmore, and I'm the Director of MATIT Operations. In this video, I will walk through a brief presentation of the concept, okay. Starting over. Hello, welcome to MATIT, sponsored by MATIT. My name is Heather Tidmore, and I am the Director of MATIT Operations. In this video, I will walk through a brief presentation of the concepts of risk management, and the different ways to deal with risk. I will explain a little bit about risk-sharing pools, what they are and how they differ from traditional insurance, and how member contributions are calculated. Finally, I will highlight some changes to the MATIT Combined Liability Coverage Program. So let's get started by asking, what is risk? Risk is the probability that an event will occur with either negative or beneficial outcomes for a particular person or group of people. I bet that's the first time that you've heard positive associated with risk, isn't it? Now, if that is what risk is, how is it managed? Through a process of identifying, evaluating, and prioritizing risk. I'm sure you're thinking, great, but what does that mean? And how do we manage something that might happen? So there's 4 ways. There's risk avoidance, risk acceptance, risk mitigation, and risk transfer. Let's take a look at the first 2, which I call all or nothing style of risk management. All is risk acceptance. We accept the risks as soon as we open our eyes in the morning. Getting out of bed can be risky. I mean, what if you fall? And also staying in bed has its own risks. What won't get done? So at the opposite end of that spectrum is risk avoidance, just doing nothing. So here we see many people avoid interacting with other people to avoid getting sick. This can be both positive in the fact that you don't get sick, but it's also negative in the fact that you're not around your family and friends. So those are the 2 extremes, but what about something else? Okay, so what we can do is we can take action to mitigate risk, reduce risk. Worried about other drivers? We drive in the right-hand lane and let the NASCAR drivers work things out amongst themselves. Choosing a car with proper safety equipment is also a form of risk mitigation. You are not assuming all of the liabilities associated with traffic, and at the same time, you're not avoiding it entirely either. Holding safety meetings, following written procedures, and seeking legal counsel are all forms of risk mitigation. Finally, there is assigning risk to someone else. This is known as risk transfer. You assign a risk to another entity, usually through a written contract, and this is called indemnification. The next time you have a ticket to an event or something similar, turn it over, and you will likely see the phrase, "You agree to hold us harmless," or "We are not liable." Essentially saying that by attending the event, getting on the ride, or whatever, you assume the liability at your own risk. Similarly is the case for risk sharing. Through contribution to a pool, contributions are also known as premium, the members transfer risk to the pool. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about risk. What is a pool? MATIT is a public entity joint risk sharing pools. Pools are one mechanism through which townships transfer their risk. Pools are member-owned, member-governed, member-driven, and member-focused. While we look to avoid unnecessary costs, We also have to consider how our decisions may impact townships in the future and the consideration that they have on precedents as well. We even have our own language. In the future, you will see we even have our own language. In the future, you will see not policyholder, but member. You will see not policy, but coverage document. And not premium, but contribution. While similar to insurance, we are not the same. Insurance uses profits for shareholders to measure success. Pools provide services, coverage, and risk management. Additionally, the trust has the fiduciary duty to all members to ensure that their funds are used responsibly and purposely. So how does MATIT configure this program? Well, remember those steps that we talked about in the beginning, identifying risk, evaluating, and prioritizing? The members identify risks they would like to see transferred to the pool. These risks often include large dollar items, property and inland marine equipment, risks attributed to the behavior of others, workers' compensation, and liabilities associated with governance, usually general liability and errors and omissions. Then we have professional actuaries evaluate the legacy costs of claims, current events, and anticipated future costs. These calculations let the trust know what must be collected as a whole based on the data they have analyzed to cover claims they foresee in the coming years. The whole cost is then split between the individual members based on township exposures. The exposures vary from coverage to coverage, but would usually include items like the population of the township, payroll in a specific job classification, or the value of property or equipment. At this point, the townships have a choice on how to prioritize their risk. So we talked about identifying, we talked about evaluating, and now we're prioritizing. And this is entirely their own risk management strategy. They can either have a large deductible they pay in the event of a loss with lower rates, or they can choose to have a smaller deductible, however the rates may be higher. There is no right answer, and each township makes their own decisions. These are the questions that MATIT staff can help you answer. So what's new with our program? Here are some things that have rolled out since I started in February. MATIT.org. This is our new website. CLC proposals will now be sent out 90 days before renewal. We do look to implement communications to facilitate some of these through email. However, this has not started yet. Please feel free to ignore any emails and attachments that you have received from me now and into the near future. Eventually, we will look to roll out this information via email, but you will be notified that this is happening, and you can ignore any unsolicited emails from me or Origami until that time. Know that this is not a virus or spam, just email sent in error. This is the first of several MATU videos we have planned, including tutorials, explanation on coverage terms, and general questions that we have collected from townships around the state. We have implemented a couple of coverage changes. The first is an endorsement that was sent in July. The trust will no longer cover damages caused by township employees or equipment used on private property for a purpose not listed in statute. This includes the damages as a result of plowing services. Questions I've received around this exclusion include, well, what about if we're turning around, if we're doing a turnaround, or if we are clearing a path for emergency services trying to access a private property? Both of these activities are provided in statute and remain covered by the general liability policies. We are removing the cost sharing requirement for planning and zoning claims. There will now be a flat $2,500 deductible on these claims, and the MATIT defense costs will be capped at $100,000. We're also making changes to the workers' comp program. We are eliminating the $25 MATIT fee to collect contractor certificates of insurance. If the certificate of insurance is not included, then the amount paid will strictly go to payroll. We are implementing a $250 fee to the townships if they do not return the completed workers' comp audit by the 1st of February. This includes the newly required W-3 from the WCRA, in addition to any contractor certificates that may need to be included. We'll be sending out more information about how this process is going to work and how it looks closer to the end of the year. And finally, MATIT has contracted with EXL Overland to begin appraising buildings over $35,000 in damages. And all of these buildings will be evaluated on a rotating basis every 3 years. And with that, if you have any questions for us, or you want to talk about your coverage, or again, if you're just looking to share questions or have comments about this video or any videos that you would like to see in the future, please feel free to give us a call. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks.